30 years now, and it's professional journalism. The second part, let's go to the second, is technology. Technology is changing your world, and if you haven't thought about it yet, you should, because the career you choose, the way you do anything, the way you stay in touch with your family, whether it's Skype or Facebook or your cell phone, is going to be affected by technology. And then the last circle is something that's really new. It's the wisdom of crowds is one way of saying it. Crowdsourcing is another. And this smack in the middle is where Rappler stands. So content creation, journalism. Let's go click one more. And it's these 4 ideas. Think about the 4 ideas and how you can use them. The first is content creation, the journalism, amplified by social media. If you notice, Rappler doesn't exist in the real world. Actually, if you found us on your Facebook feed. So social media amplification, social media crowdsources, which is our new form of bayanihan. How do you get the wisdom of crowds together? How do you get people working together to do something one person couldn't do? And then that crowdsourcing, when all of us do it together, it becomes the last part, the 4th part, big data. If you haven't yet heard of big data, I want to explain it to you a little bit because, again, it will change our world. And the sooner you learn about it, the more creative you can be about whatever career you choose or how you create new things as you get older. Social media leads to crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing leads to big data. Let me show you that on Rappler. Next slide. So Rappler, this is the front page of Rappler on the Monday after Yolanda hit, November 11th. Friday, November 8th is when Yolanda hit, right? And you can see there's a mood meter with 8 emotions. You click how you feel, and then that goes somewhere else, and I'll show you what that means. But why November 11th? Because it's the first time we really saw the scope of the damage in Yolanda. Let's click one more. After you vote on the mood meter, and every story on Rappler has a mood meter, you click how you feel, and then it goes to something we call the mood navigator. This is something we call our user engagement model. It's a patented thing, and it leads to this up on top. That's the mood navigator, right? That's the mood navigator for one of the last days in May. This was during the Surrender Blast, and you can see what it does is it takes every single vote that's been placed in every mood meter, and it gives you in a 24-hour period, the mood of the day. On the day after the Surrender Blast, the Saturday after, the mood was sad. And you can see that story, the blast in Surrender, is the one in the center. It's the yellow circle. Yellow is afraid, and gray is sad, right? So that's one. But then what happens with all that data? When you vote on the mood meter, it becomes data. And when all of us vote together, it creates insight. Go down to the bottom. That's the month of May in moods. Those are your votes. And those votes show us that here at the bottom is the day, and then up on top are the moods, right? So it shows you that Pinoys were happy most of the time in May. Let's look at election day. It's the reason I chose May. On election day, Filipinos were very happy leading up to election day, but on election day, we became very angry. We became angry because of the slow pace of votes, the vote results coming in, right? So that's on May 13th. And then look further down when the winners were announced for the Senate. We were very, very happy. That's the big spike of green. And then let's go to the end of May. Something happened at the end of May that made Pinoys angry, red, and annoyed, purple. Do you remember what happened at the end of May after elections? That thing at the end, that's right there. On that day, that was the day the story of Vice Ganda and Jessica Soho came out, and people were really angry. So you get an idea. Once that crowdsourced vote on the mood meter is aggregated into the mood navigator, you can then show the movement of moods and the events that made our society feel the way they did. What else can you do with it? Let's go to the next slide. This is big data. You're on social media. The actions you take becomes part of big data. More than 10 million photos are uploaded every hour. In the hours that you've spent here, tens of millions of photos have already been uploaded. And we click a like button or leave a comment nearly 3 billion times per day. Let's look at YouTube. YouTube has 800 million monthly users, and they upload over an hour of video every second. So the seconds that I speak, every second, you have an hour of video. It's impossible to go through all of this. That's why we're calling it big data. And then the last part, Twitter. What does Twitter look like? This is the growth. The number of tweets grows around 200% a year, and by last year, by 2012, it exceeded 400 million tweets a day. So pag nagtitweet kayo, yun, you're joining that 400 million tweets. What can you do with this big data? This is what got me excited, that we can apply this in different ways. Let's look at what was done in 2012. Next slide. This is something that was done by the UN, OCHA. OCHA working with the Digital Humanitarian Network, which is a purely volunteer organization, and working with every Filipino who tweeted during Pablo PH. Do you remember in December of 2012, the worst typhoon around the world hit the Philippines in 2012. It was also a Category 5 storm, and there were all these tweets. People tweeted. And what this group did, what we all did, is we used a unified hashtag, and then that unified hashtag, the UN said, why don't we take all of that and have volunteers analyze it, which we did. Digital Humanitarian Network was something that was put together by a man named Patrick Meyer. And look what they did. They took every tweet from the Philippines, and they not only geotagged it, so you figured out where it was, they categorized it, and then they mapped it. So it looks like this. Let's look at the next slide. More than 20,000 tweets mapped in 12 hours. While Pinoys were sleeping, people in Europe, New York, in Doha were mapping for us. So what happened in 2013? Here's what happened in 2013. Next slide. That's what Yolanda looks like from outer space. Hakatakot, di ba? Dun lang, di ba? So when we were looking at this, Move PH, which is working with Zach Yuson, by that point, we were already working with Patrick Meyer and the Digital Humanitarian. And we were preparing a global digital humanitarian effort. And what we said is, let's work together. So we were putting together things here in the Philippines, in Doha, in France, in Germany, in London. There were lots of volunteers working for free to help us before the storm even hit. Let's look at what it looked like on the ground. These are some of the worst pictures of what happened. And you knew it was going to be bad because, again, I've been a journalist longer than you've been born, longer than you've been living, but I have never been out of touch with any large swath of land, of cities and towns, for more than a few hours. It was more than 24 hours where we knew nothing from that area that was affected. And when the first pictures started coming out on Saturday morning, it was devastating. And for us in Rappler, it was very difficult because I sent a team of 2 people. Let's go to the next slide. Paterno Esmaquel and Franz Lopez. Paterno is a reporter. Franz was his cameraman. We sent them, and Thursday night before, so Yolanda hit 8:30 in the morning on Friday morning. Thursday at 11:30 p.m., we were still in touch with them, and we knew that they were okay, they were doing stories. But when you land a hit at